cats, cops, and C4. The station analyst brought the information in, and it did match up to what Laszlo claimed it was. There were a lot more details, dates and times from old records and modern-day pictures, including a video of a phone call that has a digital readout of the lips and a translation matrix matching it up to all known languages to see what she's saying no matter what language she speaks. But the only one that makes sense is galactic trade, and it's her outright speaking to the Shroud. She clearly resents the favor, but is being lambasted that she now owes the Shroud and there will be a favor called in. The details aren't given as the audio has been cleaned up to filter out the environmental sounds, and it's still unclear what the Shroud is saying. The fact they had found the other end of the call, and it's the prosthetic body which also distinctly lacks a mouth to read, doesn't help. Also, the prosthetic is in the middle of a very crowded area. The Shroud is followed by the intelligence officer before they outright vanish in the middle of the street. There was no indication they were aware at all of being followed, so it may simply be how they get around after making use of a public terminal. We swept the booth for any unusual traces of DNA or the like. It was a long shot, and unfortunately did not pan out. The Shroud is a very careful individual and has taken many steps to prevent discovery. Laszlo explains as he explains what Chief Bowman is going over. We're well aware of that, which tells us that the Shroud fears reprisal. They are not in a position to act openly, which means they're not a major force. They're not some great warrior that can withstand anything. They're hiding behind a pseudonym and a false body. I'm testing out a drone so I can be in two places at once. They're using similar techniques to hide and obfuscate. I'm aware. Do you have anything new to bring? Chief Bowman asks. It's almost guaranteed to be a man, Laszlo states. Pardon? Look at the way the drone walks. Its androgynous shape suggests a far more feminine way of walking with a roll of the hips, but it very comfortably allows all sorts of methods of walking. But the more stomping gait of a male is what the Shroud walks with. It's completely subconscious. These drone bodies have different balances, but you can easily walk in any which way with them. The body language shows tighter upper body movements to suggest that they're not at all concerned or even considering of breasts being in the way. When a woman crosses her arms, it's usually over the stomach so as to not disturb her breasts. A man crosses his over his chest. Laszlo explains, rewinding the video to show the Shroud leaning into the public terminal with their arms crossed over their chest. I can cross my arms over my chest easily. Chief Bowman retorts, doing just that. Yes, but at some distance. The arms come together at a physical distance. Men don't do that unless they're making a point. This is unconscious body movement through a linked-up drone. The arms slide up close to the chest and torso and cross. That's a very smooth, very natural move. It's also one that any woman with Axiom in her system can't do. A man, though, perfectly normal. So, human women can move like that? Human women are a lot smaller than non-human women. And yes, it has been the source of drama back on the Dauntless, Laszlo says with a roll of his eyes as Cenk snorts. Can I get an explanation for that? Linda asks. Oh, they were going on and on about unrealistic expectations, even though such things go both ways. On Earth, a woman with the kind of, well, a woman put together the way you are simply doesn't happen in nature, and men built the way most undaunted are don't either. But we've been happily taking advantage of Axiom to make ourselves bigger and stronger, and what few women are on the Dauntless generally don't like the idea. Laszlo remarks. Let's be fair, it's mostly just one, and she's a loud piece of work. How that woman managed to twist enough arms to all but force her way onto the ship is going to be the source of a lot of investigations and probably a few disgraceful discharges, Cenk states. If I recall correctly, that woman's been spending a lot of time in the brig for bothering other officers with her views, although it's been dying down of late. Yeah, one complainer can tar the group she's in pretty thoroughly. Thankfully, this one has been getting the message, Laszlo states. We've gotten distracted with internal, undaunted drama. There are more details for offer by observing the proxy body of the shroud. The walking methodology. If they were a species such as an AKA or anything other than a bipedal, they would not have an instinctive bipedal walking style. Chief Bowman realizes. Exactly. This knocks out entire species off the suspect list. Couple that with it being a male and we reduce the suspect list down to a percentile. That's not to say there's not a lot for you and your girls to go through. With the population numbers as high as they are, it being a fractions fraction is still a huge amount to go through, but I dare say that this one bit of good luck just saved you months of investigation at least. Good luck. This video feed was caught by one of our walkers fishing for conspiracy silliness, and Laszlo begins to explain, and Chief Bowman lets out a sigh of frustration. I share the sentiment. It was funny at first, and then it just became completely annoying. To make matters worse, some of them are legitimate threats. Some are charity or activist groups with ominous names, and they're all drowned out by the sheer number of goofy social clubs and harmless friend groups. Yes, I'm aware. So, you're outright looking for them? Throw a stone into a crowd and you'll hit 3 people and 4 cultists. She huffs in annoyance. So many hours of work trying to get ahead of criminal bitches, and they just keep finding dead-end idiots over and over again. Why anyone would look for them specifically was beyond her when the fools were responsible for the local police being almost entirely reactive and unable to be properly proactive. It's good practice for new recruits gives some of our more restless soldiers something useful to do that keeps them out of trouble. And every now and then, like now, it actually uncovers a gem of information. In this case, a full-on recording of the shroud that everyone was made aware to keep their eyes open for. This was a lucky find, nothing more, but sometimes luck is all you need. Just so long as you don't rely on it, Laszlo says, and out of nowhere, Cenk snorts in amusement. What's so funny? I was just thinking that this means my early accusations to try and get a rise out of the shroud might actually have been on the money, he says. Wait, Argus? He's harmless, though. The shroud may have been harsh about it, but they were fairly accurate to Argus's character and methods. Very accurate to his history and methods. Has he been under investigation? Only in that we've been investigating those that he's been attached to. The man himself has been beneath notice, Linda says slowly. Even if this is a dead end, we need to be sure. We had him way, way, way down the list of suspects, and more likely just a second or even third-hand contact to the shroud. Without women on the list, it puts him near the top, Chief Bowman says as she reaches for a communicator and then pausing. He's one of your contacts, Linda. No one else on the station knows him or has his trust. Can I trust you to be professional about this? Completely. I know that the shroud has made things personal for you, but this cannot be about vengeance if there's going to be justice. Chief Bowman asks, and there's a pause. Yes. Yes, however. If Argus is the shroud or closely connected, I want there to be backup nearby. No way someone as meticulous as this isn't as thorough a planner for their escape routes, or in laying traps for people getting too close, or in planting evidence to throw us off their trail. Get in and be objective, smart, and observant. Give nothing away, but take everything in. No detail too small, no hint too insignificant, Chief Bowman says, and Linda nods. We'll be in the car nearby, so if things go wrong, we'll be able to rush in. Otherwise, we'll be keeping things quiet. It may be best if I go as well. This drone is unarmed, but the armor plating on it is nothing to sneeze at. If nothing else, I may be able to buy someone a few seconds by sacrificing it if worse comes to worst. Laszlo offers. Chief Bowman considers before grinning. Take a car that isn't registered to this station. I want you to drive it, Mr. Drone, and I want Linda to exit in disguise. I want Arlie, Toss, and Barnabas in the back and out of sight. Can this be done? I'm calling in a van now. It's a basic autopilot, so we have a half hour before it arrives, Laszlo states, and Chief Bowman snorts. Are you sure you're not actually synthetic? That was quick response time, she says, and he chuckles before tapping the back of his neck with metallic clangs. I have some basic implants. They technically work for power armor as well, but it's why I have such smooth control over my drone, which is going to be quite the clue, and something to check Argus for as well. If he does have an outgoing signal implant, then his chance of being the Shroud goes up fairly substantially. If nothing else, it will be something very suspicious we can press him on. He's not registered as having any synthetic augmentation, Chief Bowman says, and Linda nods. Something else to look into, but it's not like such modifications are hard to get off the books. Show up with plenty of cash at a lower district and a basic implant is yours inside of 20 minutes. They're often used to help people with hacking. Double it up with a control collar and you essentially have a hands-free computer that can be rigged to do just about anything, Linda considers, including piloting a drone. The control couch I'm working with is complete overkill and would still work if this chunk of metal was on another planet. A basic control collar and your range is still continental, Laszlo remarks. Not to mention with how many different models of control collars there are, he could be wearing one and unless he activates it, you have no way of knowing. One of the newer models could be rigged up into the shirt I'm wearing now and I'd just have to turn it on to get it to work, Cenk remarks. Hackers, hacking and piloting toys. Bleh, no fun if everyone's too afraid to get in a fight. It's more like everyone's trying to outsmart everyone else. But yes, it is annoying. There are just so many ways to screw with people. Still, we got a lucky break. I'll be disseminating the information across the station, and now we can start looking into the individuals that match up. Follow your leads and for the love of God, stay out of fights, Chief Bowman says before giving Laszlo a look. I know I don't have any field authority over you, but I'll be following Cenk's lead. He's the officer with the highest level of authority for a police operation, which means that, in this case, I'm under his orders, Laszlo says. Good, and with him under Linda's and her under mine, this means that if you all fuck up, this comes right back to me. Do not fuck up. Clear? Chief Bowman says, and there's nodding. Van's arrived, Laszlo says a moment later. Good. Get moving, you four, and try to avoid any more gang wars or highly skilled mercenaries. So, what's the difference between a robot guy driving the van and autopilot? Vera asks, and there's some chuckling as Cenk gives it some thought. You can bitch out the robot and actually hurt their feelings unlike the autopilot, he asks, and Laszlo gives a false wounded look as he thumps one of his armored hands onto his chest. Revealing the clothing for the force field, it is for a moment as he accidentally bangs a projector. It gives the man the strange appearance of somehow wearing a closed coat that has an open chest with nothing but a metal torso beneath. Oh damn, hold on, he says, tapping it a few times until the hologram resumes. Something to look into when I bring this big boy back in. Big boy? How tall are you without the robots? Vera asks. He's a midget, Cenk says instantly. I am not, Laszlo protests. He barely caps out at 5 feet tall. The man is itty-bitty. Oh, screw you, dude. I'm just barely under 6 feet tall. That doesn't make me a midget. Laszlo snaps. Compared to most of the ship, you've got maybe 1.5 inches on me. Yes, I'm on the shorter end too. What about it? Cenk asks. Only compared to the Titan squads and oversized recruits. Oh no, Linda says as they exit the building and behold the van. I think we may need to lynch whoever had access to paint in the vehicle hangar. Cenk remarks and Laszlo chuckles as his hologram shifts and suddenly he's a blonde-haired man with a white shirt, jeans, and an ascot. Come on, gang. We've got mysteries to solve. Fuck off, Freddy, Cenk says, laughing as they approach the psychedelic green and flower-printed air van.